You cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanja Diamond.
Hello, everybody. This fabulous... It is Thursday, right? Yeah. I'm still doing my shows on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
It is a fabulous show on Thursday, and this is going to be a little different tonight because it's just me and Gary. Just Gary and I here in the studio.
Tanja Freeform.
Tanja Freeform. Yeah, what's going to happen? That can be kind of fun or interesting anyway. Yes, I did have a guest, I believe, and I'm so sorry if I somehow dropped the ball on her, but I haven't heard from her, and yeah, I can't find her in my email anywhere. And Sylvia Braille, if you're out there, I apologize immensely of whatever this technological glitch was. So you just have me, and that's pretty cool. I have actually a lot to talk about because there's been some amazing things happening. First, I would like to, of course, say thank you guys. Thank all of you guys. The, apparently thousands and thousands of you out there from all over the world that are continue to write me emails and support me in such beautiful ways. Apparently last week on the show, we had Darren Jacqueline, and we're talking about manifesting. And apparently my what I said about going out and actually interviewing lovers struck a lot of people as fun or something. And one woman actually wrote and said, I've been sitting around on my couch for about 8 months, hoping somebody showed up, and all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, wait, I actually need to take some action. And so she went out and she said, and there he was. So he wasn't a keeper, but he was there. So that's great. Yes, let's take some massive action. Guy I was talking to yesterday was brought about a very interesting topic. One of my inner circle guys who's working on the Foundation for Life Mastery said to me that it was interesting that apparently life isn't all about a straight line graph of healing. A lot of the times we think that once you're impeccable and once you're in integrity and once you're doing all that somehow life is just static, that it's always just in the flow, or that nothing ever bumps you off or does anything like that somehow you're living this kind of a non-human existence. Well, I'm here to tell you that no matter what, you're human. And you will still encounter all of the things that everybody else encounters in life, though perhaps you might deal with them differently. So I like to think of it like this. Most of us are leaves in the, there was like the leaves in the water kind of, metaphor. So we'll go with that. Leaves in the water floating down the stream or the river. And for most people, you're floating down and you all of a sudden, whoop, duck into this little eddy, and you're hanging out there with all the other little people in the eddy and, bouncing around, and maybe that's fine. And who knows how long you'll be stuck in that space, but all of a sudden maybe, boom, somebody accidentally bangs up against you and whoop, back you go down the flow. And you're flowing down there and you really don't know how that happened, and the next thing you know, you're over here and you're stuck on a branch. And you're stuck in that branch and you're flapping along, and maybe somebody hits you and you let go, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just grab on because it seems like, so, wow, look, I've got something to grab onto. And you hang on, and the next thing you know, you're getting shredded. Everything's just getting shredded, and you're gone. Little pieces of you floating down the water, maybe to be put back together, who knows? That's how that is. Now, if you're in the flow, if you're living in impeccability and integrity, because really being in the flow is really about that. It's about being impeccable, it's about having integrity, and it's about taking action in those directions of impeccability and integrity. And so it would look something like this. You're still a leaf. You're still in the water. You're still going down, and whoop, you ducked into an eddy. And that's okay, because you've ducked into that eddy, and because you're impeccable, you take a little visit in that eddy, and back out you go. And you're cruising down, and now, whoop, there's the branch. And maybe you hit the branch, and you spin out, and you don't even stay there. You just hit it, a little bobble. Or you grab on for a moment, and you go, ooh, no, not a good idea, and you let go. And back down the river you go. And then all of a sudden, there's a big eddy, and there's like 1 million people sitting in that eddy, and they're starting to pile up on a branch over there, and they're piling and piling and piling. It's called the economy's bad. And they're all piling up and piling up and piling up and freaking out with each other. Well, maybe you just go, ooh, look. and you swip over the top of them, and boom, down you are on the street. And you acknowledge, wow, okay, the economy is doing something. And what am I buying into with it? Okay, not. And off you go. So that's more what it looks like. It doesn't mean that things don't happen. It doesn't mean that people around you don't have issues or that your own life doesn't have issues. I allude every once in a while to this ex I have. And, some people say that it's not a good idea for me to be a human being and actually tell people that there are issues in my life. I'm supposed to somehow be sitting in some, on top of some cliff, better than everybody else. But that's not real. That's just not how it is. So I have an ex. He's like my ex. Yeah. The father of my child. Anyway, I've had to come to the embarrassing conclusion that he's kind of a loser. And why I say it's an embarrassing conclusion, because I had a child with him. So, what does that mean? That was a definite hanging out on a branch, getting shredded. But he's, so he drinks and he doesn't seem to be able to stay sober. And I keep having to take my daughter away from him, and he doesn't pay child support. It's kind of like everybody's major nightmare, right? As far as if you're a single parent. And he loves to throw in my face when I'm actually angry at him for not, being accountable. Wow, well, you're not very spiritual, are you? Wow, you're not walking your talk. Look at you. Where's your love and compassion? Well, I'm here to tell you that you can have love and compassion for people and still be annoyed and angry at them. I have compassion for the fact that he's a human just like the rest of us. I don't have compassion for the fact that he's seeming to hang out on that branch with all his might. And not only is he shredding himself, but pretty well everybody that gets in his way. I don't have compassion for that. That's just a waste of everything. So when I walk into a space where he's butting up against my integrity and accountability, I get upset. And I think it's okay to be upset, but I'm not hanging on to it. All right? See, there it is. I don't live in the state of upsetness. I did for a while, of course, just like everybody else. But I've learned to just let go. I got it. I can't fix him. I can't explain to him how to be a better person. I can't keep him from drinking. I can't make him pay. All I can do is, take the steps I need to take and then let go and hold him accountable with our agreements. That's all I can do. So if you're struggling with some guilt wrapped around the ability to feel human emotions and somehow still attain spirituality, then Tantra's for you. Because Tantra really is about embracing all of our experiences. Tantra is about embracing every experience you have as human, but it is not about staying static. It's not about hanging on to one emotion and just living in that. And it's not about even staying in love. When people say you're going to just stay in a state of love, don't do that. That's boring. Anything that you stay in forever is boring, and it's not in the laws of the universe. The universe is constantly expanding and contracting and changing. And it's okay if you do that as well. So I think that when I had that conversation with my client, they were like, wow, okay, well, that makes more sense, because here I was thinking that I had to be somehow, that if things were going wrong in my life, that somehow I wasn't there. And that's another thing. You're never actually going to be there. You're just going to be enjoying the journey as you have it. So no, it certainly means that you have a different way of experiencing life. You get over things faster. You don't hang out in the negative emotions any more than they serve you. And you know what? I think a lot of people are afraid of their quote-unquote negative emotions. They're afraid of being angry. They're afraid of crying. They're afraid of these things because sometimes you think you're never going to feel anything but that emotion again. I mean, everybody out there, right, has had that experience of, if I start crying, I might cry forever. And I say go put it to the test. I lasted 16 hours. That's about as far as I could do it, and I had to work it to get there. I was so bored by the end of that. It's like, wow. And anger, will your anger really overtake you? I think if you hang on to an emotion and you bubble it along, you can last a lot longer. So if you just walk into your space of anger, and I'm not saying go out there and bash anybody. That's just not appropriate. You can't do that. But your own personal experience of anger, if you just get and feel and breathe the anger as big as you can, it's really hot. You can't stay there long. But what you can do is, like on a scale of 1 to 10, if you just go to that 10 and just be angry, boom, it burns out really fast. You cannot maintain that intensity for long. What you can maintain is a 1 or a 2. you can maintain a 1 or 2 anger for your lifetime. You can just let it sit and percolate and bubble and resurrect it over and over and over again. So that's the question to ask yourself. If you're afraid of feeling the emotion, but it's always there, and you think because it's just a 1 or a 2 that it's not doing anything to you, you are wrong. Completely wrong. So I say, just experience that emotion, move it, get it out of the way, and do something else. That's our first rant for the night. So last night I was listening to this man. His name is Larry Winget, Winget. He is considered the, I hope maybe I can get him on one day because that would be hilarious. He is considered the pit bull of the development world, the motivational speaker, the business world. He's also, and these are all trademark names, he's like considered an irritational speaker. So anybody that and he's got this bald head and this goatee, and I'm sure he's pierced, and he's wearing this kind of funky shirt with his jeans, and goes out and talks about business. And his thing is, your success is your own damned fault. So of course I had to buy it because sounds like he might be talking some truth. Loved him right off the bat because basically he starts talking about, hey, if your job sucks, it's because you suck at your job. If your life sucks, it's because you're sucking at your life. And he's really pretty hardcore, even to the point where he says, "Hey, you hating me right now? You don't like me? That's fine, because my life is good, but yours isn't. That's why you're listening to this." He's in extreme accountability mode. And I love the fact that what he's saying is, it just basically it takes work. He had some interesting things to say about the other side of the coin, which is, find what you love and do it. And if you love it and do it, the money will follow. He's saying, no, there isn't. There's a whole lot of people out there that love what they do and they just suck at it. And they're just never really going to get that much money out of it because they're not any good. There's some reality to that. He's saying, you have passion for your job, everything's going to be great. He goes, no, there's plenty of passionate people that just aren't any good. They're passionate, but they're not effective. So they're not getting anywhere. So he's taken this whole kind of touchy-feely about your work out and said, it takes work. I guess the statistic is 50% of the people that go to work only work 50% of the time at their job. They're there at their job, but they're doing all sorts of other things. They're only actually showing up for 50% of the actual work. And he said, you make a contract with your employer to work, and then you show up and don't. That's not really ethical. And so I think he thinks that most people are suffering from a lack of work ethic. Like somehow we're owed, just because we showed up, we're owed something. And I haven't gotten all the way through it. But I called my friend Craig. Well, I remember Craig, my great buddy, my hypnotherapist, internet marketing guru guy. And I had a little talk with him about it. And he said, Tanya, I think because both Craig and I are very much like that. We're action-oriented people. We can put in 16-hour days. And we know how to work. We understand what it takes to create businesses. I've owned businesses since I was 16. So Greg and I are having a discussion, and he says, Tanya, he's got that half. He's got that half that a lot of people need. But then there's that other half. So that other half that people are way out there with the manifesting and the passion and the love. And he goes, that half's important too. But the problem is you need the middle. All right? Which is, of course, what I've been teaching both Craig and the people in my program, which is the middle, which is you need to take action and you need to live in impeccability and understand what being in the flow of the universe is. Because if all you're doing is working, and you've got this drive and you're all in the masculine work, you're living in your head most of the time. Because that's kind of almost where we need to go a lot of the time to get that work done, that focus in our heads. If you're out there in manifesting airy fairyland, way out there where you're sitting on your couch and you've got your vision board and, you've misinterpreted the secret and you've got your vision board, you're sitting on your couch and you're wondering, why hasn't that Mercedes showed up? I've been looking and saying my affirmation, the Mercedes is in my driveway, the Mercedes is in my driveway for 2 years, but somehow it's just not working. That's because the truth is in the middle. Live in your impeccability and take action, and things actually happen. So I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of Larry because apparently he's got some strategies, and I'll share those with you. I think it would be quite fun to have him on the show just because I like outrageous people, and I like people that aren't afraid to speak the truth. Which brings me to my third rant, the truth. How many of us actually ask for what we really, really want? And you think about, and I'm not just talking in business, any parts of our lives, how many of us are standing in such incredible truth that we're asking for what we want? What do we want? Well, let's say I want 3 lovers, and I also want somebody to be incredibly in love with me, like I'm the only person on the planet that they could ever love and adore. Would that be my truth? Yeah, it might be. Does it seem right or normal or how possible? Who knows? But if you start to take away the shoulds of how you feel and the boxes that you've been put in about what you're capable of or what life can actually deliver to you, it might start to get kind of interesting. So how about, as you're sitting there, standing there, driving, sleeping, whatever it is you're doing while you listen to me, why don't you think for a moment about how much truth you're willing to speak in, let's say, relationship, since this is the Tantra, Love, Sex, and Intimacy show. How much truth are you willing to speak in and about your relationship? How much did you settle? You meet a person, and you think, wow, they're kind of cool, but I really don't like this and this and this. And so you decide anyway, well, I don't want to be lonely, and they have most of these things, so I think maybe that'd be okay. But it isn't really your truth. Then you end up in a relationship with them, and constantly those little things are on the back burner. Now, I get it. I understand. We've all been told that relationship takes sacrifice, relationships take work, that we need to compromise. You can't get 100%. Nobody's perfect. All of these things. And that is all true in some regard. But I think it's even more true when we're picking relationships and things we're doing based on half-truths instead of actual truths. What do you really, really want? Okay. Now, we get angry sometimes as women about those men that say they want a 5'2", 103-pound blonde with hair down to the middle of her waist, blue eyes, bee-stung lips, yada yada, blah, 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 and she likes to swallow. We might go like, what's up, dude? How in the world can you say that you want all that? We get offended if we're not that person. Is that his truth? I don't know. Is he being really, really specific about what he really, really wants? I put some of that to the test with another guy that I have as a client. Excuse me. And, how to make that physical manifesting list. Just write everything down. Write everything down that you want in a partner. And he wrote this list, and it was a really specific list, C cup, and, just had everything on there. And as I looked there and I said, okay, so, these are really important. I said, let's list them. I said, now let's list everything. We're talking, whether they work or they're professional, their education, whatever. List it all. Got this whole list, and then you look at the list and say, okay, now prioritize it. Like, what's the most important thing? So go through and prioritize the list. Now, for a lot of men, it's really difficult for them. You're looking at education, C cup. These things are maybe hard to determine what is the priority. Now, let's say you happen to manifest somebody that actually is all those physical attributes that you wanted, and there they are. But they're not ethical. Well, what do you do then? Where did ethics fall in that? For most people, ethical falls under a lot of the visual things, which is a little bit interesting. Now, if you're there, sitting around doing that, writing this list, write that list and find out, where do things fall? What does it look like? Where are your priorities? And then you've got to look and ask yourself, are you living those priorities? Frequently, we want people that are above how we're living. We want somebody that, we hold to a high standard. And yet, if we were to actually look at our own lives, we'd find out that it's going to be hard to call that person in because we're not actually living in that standard. Yeah, that's another place to go. And I tell you, I don't know if it's if I do people a lot of favors when I'm working with them and start to hold them into that impeccability and integrity place, because it's not, as somebody said to me today, it's not very convenient. It's really not convenient to live an integrous and impeccable life. Certainly most people aren't, and it is a little bit uncomfortable because, it takes work. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And you can call in here if you don't want to hear me speak for the whole hour just by myself. But I'm happy to do that too. You can post a question on Facebook or hit me up on Twitter. I've got the computer open and I can see it. And I'm going to go ahead and head for a short break and see you back in just a few moments.
Is your sex life non-existent? Do sexual dysfunctions leave you soft? Is internet porn getting more than you are? Or are you paying more attention to porn than your partner? Have you tried talk therapy and it got you nowhere? You are not alone. You can be freed from sexual shame, guilt, and dissatisfaction. A visit to the Tantra teacher is in order. Call now and mention you heard the Tantra teacher on the radio and get a very special offer. Stop waiting for a miracle and call right now. 206-276-2735. Phone consultations or in person will get you the information you need to be successful in your love life. But you have to call now. 206-276-2735. Stop making excuses. Call the Tantra teacher. 206-276-2735.
Contact Talk Radio.
It's on the internet.
It's consciousness in action.
Information.
It's your connection to empowering information.
It's what matters to you.
It's on the internet.
Contact Talk Radio.
Listen live.
Join in on the online chat.
Contact Talk Radio.
We're making a difference.
And leading the way at contacttalkradio.com.
Are you one of the 40 million sexless couples in the U.S.? Are you wondering why having sex leaves you feeling lonely? Are you suffering from the myths of sexual dysfunction? Do you know in your heart that there has to be more than what you're currently getting out of making love? To rid yourself of sexual ignorance, get more out of your lovemaking, and find out more about spiritual sexual connection, then you need to check out www.thetantrateacher.com to receive your free copy of the ebook called Secrets of the Tantra Teacher. Don't suffer another minute without the sexual loving and ecstatic bliss you were born to receive. Get to www.thetantrateacher.com right now. That's www.thetantrateacher.com.
This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action.
Now is your chance to be part of the show. Call 877-230-3062. Call in with your questions or thoughts and talk with the host and their guest. Again, that number is 877-230-3062.
So I'm back. It's tonight is Tanja Free Flow, Tanja on a rant. Tanja talking about whatever happens to Tanja on Tanja. Okay, yeah, well, you know that, yeah, Tanja on Tanja. Is that like girl on girl or something like that? What happens when the Tantra teacher is on the Tantra teacher? Okay. Gary's having fun over there. So, yeah, so I had a lot of fun on the first half talking about random things, taking action in your life. In the second half, I think I want to talk about self-pleasuring versus masturbation. And I think I can use both those words. Gary didn't jump up and throw himself across the desk to hit the bleeper. And, you know, this is a really interesting topic. I mean, not just for men listening to me talk about it, but, I mean, an interesting topic all around. You know, we're in a place now in the world where we've got to understand, of course, and I hope, but I still hear that it's not true. You know, masturbation is normal, okay? I'm just going to say that. There it is. It's now, like if Oprah, I think Oprah might have said it too. If she said it, then it's just got to be that way. Now, the act of masturbation as it is when you're a child is normal. We manage to mess this thing up. Now, how is that possible? Excuse me. How is that possible to mess up something that's a completely natural event? So masturbation, the process of touching oneself in a pleasurable way, starts in the womb. We come out of the womb, we touch our bodies, we explore our bodies, we figure this all out. The problem is it gets really muddied, and stuff starts happening when our parents get involved, society, not in our masturbation, but kind of, as far as how they impact us and thinking about it. Religion, society, all of that. And puberty, of course, then wreaks havoc. So when kids are touching themselves at a younger age, they're exploring their bodies. They're going, wow, that feels good. Okay, like this finger in the ear feels good. That feels good. Everything's fine. They don't really have a charge around it. They don't really have a judgment around it. They're just having an experience. Okay, in comes the mom freaking out because she's not really sure what to say about that. She doesn't want to be embarrassed. She doesn't want to be embarrassed because the kid's not embarrassed. But she doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of her friends, or she's uncomfortable because she makes it sexual instead of just a normal, pleasurable thing. And so she goes ahead and puts her charge or her feelings about it on the child. Honey, don't touch let's say she's pretty enlightened. Honey, don't touch yourself. That's something you do in private. Don't touch yourself in public. You do that in private. Well, just that, especially if her voice is tense or something like that, if she's nervous about it, already makes us go, there's something about this. There's something about this, because she doesn't tell me that about my ear or my elbow. Don't touch your toes, honey. Do that in private. So there's a charge around this particular experience. Most people don't get that kind of a thing. They get this whole, oh my God, stop doing that. Get in your room. Freak out. Now, one of my team members told me a very great story surrounding masturbation, so I'll share that. He said that he knew a woman who grew up in this huge family. And in their family, there was like 10 kids, I think, or 10 people in the family. When the family was out of sorts or somebody was out of sorts, the parents would say, go to your room and masturbate until you have an attitude change. Now, what would the world be like if that's the way parents dealt with all of that? I'm sorry, you look like you're having a cranky time. Go to your room, masturbate. When your attitude's different, come back. Wow, I'm trying to fathom what the world might be like if that's how we took care of that. Of course, there's some problems with that too. But I digress. So we're given lectures. We end up get masturbation gets muddied and charged up with some negativity and negative expression, usually at a young age. We were innocent. We were having a great time with it. Now we're thinking we need to hide this. And what happens with that is we have an emotion around something now that we just had joy around. So now we have the physical pleasure, because we're not going to stop doing it as a rule, but we also have that emotional yuck feeling attached to it. Now, we all know, if you've listened to me at all, about anchors. And anchors are things that, just like they sound, if you anchor something, you have, like a fear. Let's say you had a horrible experience with a spider. You now anchor spiders to fear. Right? Whenever you see a spider, even if you're not scared, you're going to be scared because you've anchored that experience to that emotion of fear. Right? Masturbation can be the same thing. In the beginning, it's a pleasurable experience. It's not probably not a super intense experience for most people. It's just a pleasurable. I think intensity comes a little bit later. Well, intensity comes with orgasm, and playing with yourself doesn't always end up in orgasm. But as soon as orgasm takes over, as soon as it becomes in the mix, and you're having orgasm, which is an intense experience, and you're anchoring it to that feeling of, I shouldn't be doing this, or I might feel a little bad about this, or I should feel bad about this, or you have some shame or guilt, and you anchor over and over again to that experience, it all becomes mixed up. Think about that for a minute. That emotion becomes mixed up in the orgasm. Consequently, later on, you might have that experience of where, and especially if it was an intense experience, you got caught, you were really shamed, you were really guilted around that, then you might have to look for bigger charges. So, instance, you might go and masturbate, and you look for things that make you feel worse emotionally. while you're having that sexual high. So let's say, you feel like seeing people in bondage is really deviant. And so that would really get your shame or guilt or something going. You'll find yourself looking for more and more of that to anchor. So we anchor bigger and bigger experiences. Not everybody does this, but certainly there's a lot of things around that. And then you get the fantasy, all of that thing going on. Most people, when they masturbate, are not actually checking in with their bodies. I know that sounds kind of weird because you're thinking, well, it is my body, I'm touching my body, I feel my body. No, you might just be feeling your genitals, especially if you're in fantasy land. And of course, this is a loaded thing, and I get a lot of crap about this because fantasy is normal, fantasy is okay, everything's great. It certainly can be, but if it's the only place you can go when you're masturbating, if masturbating and fantasy are so linked up that you actually can't just be in your own experience, you have to be somewhere else, that's an issue. So, really, think about that. What's going on with that? Okay, so now we start to see masturbation as sexual tension release. We get a feeling in our genital regions, and we don't know what to do with all that. This is puberty's hit now. We've got all that sexual energy, and we're freaking out because it's all in one place, and it's too much, and we've got to give it away, get it out of there. Masturbation becomes sexual tension release. And that, in a sense, becomes a little bit like medicating. Instead of being able to deal with those intense feelings and that intense feeling and be trained how to move it through your body, you might just get all wigged out about it, and you've got to get it out of your body, and it becomes medicating. A lot of people masturbate to go to sleep, which is akin, of course, once again, to medication. You're medicating yourself, shutting yourself down, just tension releasing instead of having a big, exciting charge to it. All right. Masturbation, as you can see, gets really messed up. Now, what's the difference between masturbation and self-pleasuring? Because I started this whole thing off with masturbation versus self-pleasuring. If you are self-pleasuring, what you are doing is actually not looking at visual stimulation. You are not experiencing fantasy exclusively, and you probably are not getting a big shame charge or guilt or anything like that attached to it. What you would be doing, and so if you've never done this before, here's some homework. And if you're there by yourself right now, you can certainly do this right now, is to actually start touching yourself. That means your entire body, not just the good bits, because they're all good bits. Start touching yourself in a way that you're staying in touch and staying in contact with yourself. Your hand that's touching is experiencing as well as what you're touching is experiencing. You're staying in the moment of what you are actually feeling. Now, when most people masturbate, they have to come up with some artificial induced feelings. Like they need a visual stimulation to get an artificial induced feeling so they can get off quicker, or a fantasy to help move it along. Because if you just are touching yourself and you're not feeling anything, you're not getting to where you think you need to be, then you look for that artificial ingredient to move it along. But what happens if you just stayed with what it was you were feeling or not feeling? I mean, maybe you wouldn't have an orgasm. Maybe you would actually just have a very pleasant 15, 20, 30 minutes of touching your body and feeling good. Send love to yourself. Have an experience with yourself. We are so incredibly detached, as a rule, from our own experience, whether it's self-pleasuring or actually making love, that this is the place to start. So go ahead and say to yourself, hey, I'm going to be completely engaged in the moment with no agenda, no goal to get off. I want to experience what I'm really experiencing now. Okay, now that could be scary, because what happens if you find out that without the visual stimulation of porn or something, without the fantasies, without shame or guilt, or without something else, you don't actually feel anything? Don't dismay. Don't dismay, because that's the starting point. It takes a while to step back into your own experience if you've been out of your body the whole time. It takes a while to learn that how to become your own best lover. And if you become proficient in the art of self-pleasuring, you're actually one step closer to becoming a master lover for other people as well. So this is really a crucial lesson in achieving going up the ranks of sexual mastery, the different levels. It has to start with yourself. You have to have that experience of what you feel authentically instead of what you're creating or inducing in a fantasy. Now, I'm not saying you should never masturbate again in the other way. I'm not saying that you should never have a fantasy. I'm not saying that you should never do anything. What I'm suggesting is that you take on something new. Because whenever I teach, I like to tell people, I'm not actually ever trying to take anything away from you. I'm just trying to give you extra things that you can use, more tools in your toolbox, more experiences that you can have. So don't be afraid of this. And I think it's interesting because, somebody will say, but what if I don't get off? It's like, then you don't get off. Okay. You get off later. You'll be fine. Why are we so afraid of feeling sexual energy and not retaining it, not being able to just keep it in our body? I understand it can be intense. I understand that if you don't know how to move it through your body, that it can be a little uncomfortable. And I understand that for a lot of men, there can be some irritation and anger come up if they're sexually frustrated. And those are things that you really should look into and check out and see what's going on. Because those are the charges that you're having around sexuality as well. Those charges that are underlying there, we feel them. Your partner will feel those charges, even if they're not really aware of it. So, okay, if you can leave, you can destroy this habit of addiction, of touching in a certain way, because you're probably doing it with other people as well. And you can take the fantasy out. You can have your own authentic experience. You are going to experience some absolutely unbelievable pleasure in your body. Because I guarantee you right now, you're not feeling as much as you could. And as you start to spread the pleasure and energy through your entire being, you will become so happy that you listened to this and gave it a whirl. Now, if you want to, right now I only have a man's self-guided pleasuring MP3, but I'll have a woman's as well pretty soon, probably in the next week. So if you want to think, okay, so I need to do this, but I'm not really understanding what this means, I have a men's guided self-pleasuring MP3 that you can go to my site and find under products. And that's me guiding you through this experience of what I was just talking about. Self-pleasuring versus masturbation. There's a difference. It takes a little bit of time to figure out, to try to do something new. You're saying, why should I do this? I'm really, really addicted to the way I masturbate now. That's the key. Really addicted to the way I masturbate now. Which means you're probably really addicted in some form or obsessed with or at least habituated to the way you are making love and having sex. Trust me, it's really worth it to try and do something completely different. And I don't know, write and tell me what you think. Give it a whirl at least and say, okay, I tried that. Maybe it was great, maybe it wasn't. What about living in arousal is so incredibly scary for most people? That's what I want to know. I wish you were calling me up right now saying, I'll tell you about what's scary, Tanya. I don't know. Gary doesn't have his headphones on, so I can't ask him what's scary about living in arousal. Do you live in any arousal, Gary? No, he's not on the air. He doesn't live in arousal. Living in arousal is not just living in your genitals. It's about living in full expression. Unfortunately, we believe that arousal is synonymous with sexual pleasure, and in one place. But arousal is about experiencing life completely. And people ask me all the time, so what's up with you? Why are you so happy? You seem really engaged. You're running around. You're having a good time. All these amazing things. And I do have an amazing life. These amazing things show up and happen all the time. When you're living in that arousal space, you dare to dream really big. So, my last big dream. My housemate came home with a beautiful new computer chair. And I'm like, wow. And she said, yeah, I found it on the street, free off Craigslist. I'm like, I want to find a new computer chair on the side of the road free when I'm driving down the road one day. So 2 days later, I'm driving down the road and boom, look at there. A really nice office chair sitting on the side of the road for free. Yeah, pick it up, take it home, works great, love it. So then I'm thinking, wow, I'd like to have a new office chair for my downstairs office. Not a computer chair, but an office chair. And I want something low, wooden, low, cushy. And I'd love to find it on the side of the road. And 2 days later, there it was, on the side of the road. I'm liking this so far. So here's what I have to say about that. We go wind this back around to manifesting. So a lot of us that are manifestors, we think that we say things like, let's say you want a new Lexus. I want to drive a new Lexus and I want to pay cash for it because that's super cool for most people to be able to pay cash for their car. How come we don't think about things like, I want to drive a new Lexus and I want somebody else to pay for it? Because that's even cooler. And that's kind of what I'm doing with my car. I drive this beautiful yellow FJ Cruiser, and I didn't pay for it. And I did want to drive it. I stroked it in the lot one summer, last year summer, and said, wow, I'd like to own this car, but I really don't want to pay $30,000 for it. And circumstances happened probably 4 months later where a very nice man who needed some of my business expertise in business, that is business, purchased this vehicle that I drive. So it is out there. And so what you can do with this, when I'm talking about self-pleasuring, why would you want to self-pleasure versus masturbate? One of the things you can do with sexual energy, when you can really, really feel it and use the energy, is you can use it for a thing called sex magic. Sex magic is a way to use sexual energy to manifest your dreams, desires, things that you want. The reason sex magic is so potent is because sexual energy is one of the most potent forms of energy in the universe. I keep saying this, we create life with it. There really is nothing bigger than sexual energy going around. How to harness that energy and imbue it with an intent or a manifesting desire and send it out into the world with consciousness instead of unconsciousness has been going on for a very, very long time. There's quite a few books written on it. Most of them aren't that good. There are a couple that are brilliant. And I'm happy if you email me. I'm happy to tell you which my favorite ones are, or what ones I really think do a nice job of summing it up. But the premise is that you are doing certain rituals to bring up your sexual energy, learning how to have sexual energy in your body, how to build it and build it and build it, because it can't just be the sexual energy most people are running around with. I always say that's a 2 on a scale of infinity, is what most people are living in. You've got to bring that sexual energy up. You've got to be experiencing it in a high, brilliant way. And you can do this solo or with a partner. And you bring this sexual energy up, and you build it, and you build it, and you build it. Now, you can do this with orgasm or without. There are different ways to do it, but building that energy up while you're meditating on, focusing on, manifesting, dreaming, desiring something huge. And when you release that energy through your body, not out your genitals, but through your body into the universe, you are sending a very, very focused message. The reality is, everything you want and desire is already right there. I visualize this as, right up above your head right there is a big trap door. And most people have both hands holding up the trap door, holding it closed tight because they're worried that it's going to drop on their head or something. But inside the trap door, that being the universe, is everything you want. And right now, you're spending more time holding that trap door up than ducking out of the way of all the amazing things that could be flying to you. What do you really, really want? What do you really want? Not just, I want $1 million. Who doesn't? But what do you really want? Why do you want that $1 million? Why is that personal? Because you think somehow if you had $1 million, your life would be different? I'll tell you what, if you had $1 million right now and you're living the same life you're living right now, less than a year from now, you're just not going to have that $1 million anymore. So you have to decide what you want, and then you have to start living it right now. You want a new car? Well, treat your old clunker like it's your new car. You want to have money in abundance? Then treat the money you have with the respect and impeccability it deserves, so that the universe understands that you are ready to take on the next step. You want a lover? Be a lover. Most people are celibate when they don't have a lover. They might masturbate, but they're still really celibate. If they're self-pleasuring, if you take up self-pleasuring and you're single and you would like to bring a lover to you, that lover is going to appear really, really quickly. Be your lover. Be your own best lover, so that you're putting out into the universe how you want to be touched, how you want to be experienced, how you want to experience someone else. And I know we hear this and we talk about this in love. You know, if you live in love, then love will come to you. But how we don't do that a whole lot in sex. Either we just forget that we're sexual beings at all, waiting for somebody to resurrect us, or we're really caught up in just medicating ourselves to get relief. I want to challenge you to go self-pleasure. And I want you to write me and tell me then, yeah, I did this, and wow, look what showed up in my life. Get out of your head, create a new experience than the one you're having. And with it, visualize who that person is you want to bring in, who would be touching you like you want to be touched. Touch yourself like your lover would touch you. And have a complete experience with that. That's what I'm thinking. So how did I tie all that together? We had self-pleasuring and masturbation. We had manifesting. We had feeling authentically, being angry or whatever. All of this stuff is the same thing. All of this stuff is tantric. It all has to do with sex and intimacy. And it certainly all has to do with love. Most of us love because we want to get something. Most of us think that once we're in love, everything's going to be okay. We're not realizing that love is just a self-experience. It's a self-state. Being in a state of love is really about you experiencing love. Now, if somebody else comes along that you happen to have some chemistry or some like with or something else, and you can experience love with them, hey, all the better. But in the meantime, loving in a self-state is really where it's at. It's not, you don't have to be stingy with it. You know, from what they tell me, it's a renewable resource. You can feel love at any time. If you're sitting out there right now going, oh, but I got hurt, like most of us have, and I don't want to open up. I don't want to experience that pain again. Well, the issue is you're experiencing that pain over and over and over again because you're staying hurt. And remember, at the beginning of this, I said emotions move along. They don't stay unless we resurrect them. So I know you're hearing me right now, and if you're one of those people that still has that residual pain in your heart from being heartbroken or feeling that pain, put your hands over your chest right now. Take both hands and just put them on your heart. And take a very deep breath with me. Just breathe out first. Let the breath out. And then take an in-breath. And a big sigh out. And start to let go with every in-breath and a big sigh out. Start to let go of the wall or that experience you're having around your heart. Just let it go. Because what you really want is to be loved. What you really want to experience is a lack of pain surrounding the old experience of love. It's never going to show up while you have the wall up. Because while your wall is up, they can't get in and you can't get out. So really, just be brave. Take down that wall and see what happens. And you can do that just by simply breathing. Yep, breathing is the key. Everybody that takes any class from me, anytime I ask a question, they yell breathing or breath because it's the key to everything. Take a breath. Pour love into your own heart with your hands. Take the wall down so that you can experience something bigger. It's lonely to have the wall up. It's lonely to not have the love that you want. And you're the one in charge of that. Because Because remember, I went on that rant about if your life sucks, it's because you're sucking at it. So if love is not there, it's because you're not loving. So take a moment. Decide whether you want love to show up. At the very least, when you start to step into that space of love, then you get to call the shots about how you feel about love. You will experience love no matter what. Whether there's somebody else that joins you in that dance or not, doesn't really matter. And even bigger than that, I think, is gratitude. And if you don't have your gratitude list up today, I empower you to make one. Write down all the things that you are grateful for in your life. And create a personal mantra around that. What I do is I have this thing where I say, thank you, universe, for my most amazing life. And whenever I say it, I tear up because I have anchored that to that intense feeling. I've anchored those words to intense gratitude. So when you're wandering around the world or life and all of a sudden you're just, you know those feelings where you want to just jump out of your skin because you're so excited and everything just feels so great? Right then, use your mantra. Right then, use your mantra over and over again and anchor those words to that incredible experience. Anchor those words to that moment. Whenever you say those words then, if you've anchored them enough, you will experience that immensity, that excitement that you experienced before. That's anchoring a great thing versus anchoring a shame or guilt thing. We can choose to anchor whatever we want. I say let's anchor the great stuff. So in a moment of pain or in a moment of despair or in a moment of loneliness, if you resurrect those words, your mantra, your personal mantra, it doesn't matter what it is, it's just something that makes you, resonates with you, makes you feel good. One of my clients, I'm like, I am so there. Whatever it is, anchor it to those great experiences of your life and keep doing it. And then when you're having a not so great experience in your life, you can simply resurrect that statement and it will change how you feel instantly. And how cool would that be? Now, for those of you that are stuck in the space of victimhood and you are stuck there saying, no, it's everybody else's fault, it's not mine, I would feel good if only I had this, and I'll feel good once I have this, and those are excuses. And you know what? If you want to have them, that's cool. Because like I said, I don't want to take anything away from you. If you want to keep excuses because you want to stay small and you want to have excuses because you don't want to find love and you want to have excuses because you just want to do that, do it. Go ahead. But you know what? I empower you to really be there. I want you to use those excuses in a huge way, okay? Don't mealy around about it. Be empowered with it. I am such a flippin' victim. Get excited about it and be empowered with it. Just don't be apathetic. No apathy in the world. We got a couple of minutes left, and really, apathy, it's got to go. If you're sitting there and you're apathetic right now, either get angry at me or love me, one or the other. Get angry because I've just called you out on it, or love me because I called you out on it. But get off the apathy because it's killing the world. A bunch of apathetic people that like apathetic people are bringing us down. Stop being apathetic. I want you to go to my site, sign up for my email list, find out what classes I have going on, we'll find out what coaching programs I have going on. Write to me. You can write me love mail. You can write me hate mail. You can write me anything you want, but I'd love to hear from you. And thanking all of those, once again, thousands of people that are out there listening. Tell your friends about it. Feel free to send free to, grab some articles off my website and send them around. It's all great. I want to spread the news. Eradicating sexual ignorance is my mission. LearningTantra.com is my website. There's more and more videos on there all the time. Get on my list. Next weekend, not this weekend coming up, but next weekend is the Tantra and Sexual Empowerment Weekend, 16th, 17th in Seattle. Just have a couple of spaces left, and that's where you get the full meal deal. Figure out how to make these changes that you need to change. So, I'm Tanja Diamond. I have had a fabulous time this evening, having my own personal free rant. Who knew that I could almost talk for an hour straight? But apparently, I can. Are we ready to go, Gary? Did you have a good time? Yeah, Gary had a good time. I'm just so happy Gary had a good time. All right, everybody. I'll catch you next week. Bye-bye now.
You have been listening to the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show with your host, Tanja Diamond. Visit our website at www.tanjadiamond.com. That's TANJA for more information on workshops and classes.